The night throbbed with the neon symphony of Night City. Rain slicked the streets into a shimmering mirror, reflecting the vibrant lights in a kaleidoscope of color. The back door of OmegaCorp's clandestine lab burst open, and four masked figures spilled out, a glowing satchel clutched between them. Inside, alarm sirens wailed, blending into the city's relentless hum. Swiftly, they vanished into the labyrinth of alleyways. Hard on their heels, black-armored OmegaCorp security forces materialized in high-tech vehicles. The chase was on, under the neon glare, high-speed vehicles and gunfire punctuated the night. The stolen satchel contained the Chronos chips, capable of controlling human minds, and their passage into the underworld was the spark that would ignite the city's fate. Kaito sat in the dimness of his apartment, a flickering hologram playing before him. On the screen, his younger self, an ambitious OmegaCorp employee, stared back at him. The past flooded his mind like a nightmare. He recalled the early tests of the Chronos chips, the chilling sight of minds being manipulated. His conscience had screamed at the consequences of such power in the wrong hands. His decision to escape OmegaCorp had been the turning point in his life. Now, with the chip stolen, he was forced to confront his past. The nightmares etched into his mind propelled him toward this perilous mission. Night City's underworld was a stark contrast to the neon-lit surface, a place of darkness and danger. Kaito descended into this labyrinth, encountering familiar faces along the way. In the smoky haze of grimy bars, data brokers and hackers lurked. His first stop was the haunt of an old contact, a hacker known as Razor. Razor sat hunched in a dark corner, monitoring data streams. Kaito approached, seeking information about the chips. In the underworld, information was currency, and the price was always steep. Kaito knew he had to tread carefully on this hazardous path. An encrypted message flashed on Kaito's data pad, the lead he was searching for. It detailed a rendezvous at a place called the Black Lotus. The Black Lotus was one of the underworld's most discreet meeting points. Kaito scanned the room as he entered. Under the dim lights, groups of various factions sat scattered. A masked figure in the corner motioned for Kaito to approach. The figure claimed to have knowledge of the chips and offered assistance. However, they needed to prove their reliability. Secret negotiations and perilous agreements drew Kaito one step closer to the trail of the chips. OmegaCorp was relentless in their pursuit of the stolen chips, deploying ruthless mercenaries to track Kaito. As he navigated the underworld, he was suddenly surrounded. Under the harsh glare of neon lights, black-armored soldiers aimed their weapons at him. The first trap had been sprung. Kaito relied on his quick reflexes, attempting to slip through the soldiers' ranks. The firefight erupted, high-tech weaponry filling the air. Kaito used his agility to evade the soldiers, fleeing into the maze of back alleys. The chase continued, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse in Night City's shadowed streets. Kaito sought refuge in a dilapidated arcade, a known haunt for underworld figures. He needed allies. Entering, he found himself amidst a motley crew, hackers, smugglers, and mercenaries. Among them, he spotted Sparks, an old acquaintance with a knack for tech. Sparks owed Kaito a favor, but favors came at a price in Night City. As they talked, a group of heavily armed mercenaries, their allegiance unclear, entered the arcade. The room tensed, allegiances were shifting, and old friendships were put to the test. Kaito realized that in this world, trust was a fragile commodity, and even allies could become enemies in the blink of an eye. With Sparks' help, Kaito initiated a cyber attack against OmegaCorp's data network. They entered the digital realm, a neon-lit landscape of data streams and firewalls. Sparks, a master of cyber warfare, navigated the intricate network, seeking the location of the Chronos chips. Kaito provided support, battling digital security programs and firewalls. The tension mounted as they penetrated deeper into OmegaCorp's system. They uncovered hidden files, tracking the chip's movements, but OmegaCorp's counterattacks became more aggressive. Digital defenses snapped into place, threatening to trap them within the network. The cyber battle was a high-stakes game, and failure meant capture. OmegaCorp, having traced Kaito's cyber signature, set a new trap in the neon-drenched commercial district. Kaito, leaving sparks to cover their digital tracks, found himself ambushed. Mercenaries emerged from the shadows, their weapons blazing. Kaito, nimble and quick, weaved through the chaotic barrage, dodging bullets and leaping over obstacles. He used the crowded streets to his advantage, disappearing into the throngs of people. A high-speed chase ensued, with Kaito ducking through alleys and using the city's verticality to evade his pursuers. The city's towering neon signs cast long, distorted shadows, making it difficult to discern friend from foe. Kaito decided to revisit his old stomping grounds, the abandoned OmegaCorp lab. The lab was a relic of his past, filled with ghosts and painful memories. Entering, he found the place in disarray, remnants of experiments scattered everywhere. He located his old workstation, searching for hidden data logs. He discovered encrypted files detailing the true purpose of the Chronos chips, not just mind control, but the ability to overwrite personalities entirely. This revelation shook him. He now understood the full extent of the danger. OmegaCorp's experiments had pushed the boundaries of ethics, and the stolen chips posed a threat beyond anything he had imagined. Just as Kaito was about to leave the lab, he was confronted by a familiar face, his old colleague, Lena. She revealed herself to be a double agent, working for OmegaCorp. Lena had gained Kaito's trust, feeding him false information and tracking his movements. Kaito felt a surge of betrayal, realizing he had been played. Lena tried to justify her actions, claiming she was trying to prevent a greater disaster. Their confrontation turned into a tense standoff, with Lena drawing her weapon. Kaito, now alone and betrayed, had to face the reality that the enemy wasn't just outside, but within his inner circle. The heart of the underworld, a sprawling network of illicit marketplaces and gambling dens, became a battleground. News of the Chronos chips had spread like wildfire, drawing every faction eager to seize control. Gangs, syndicates, and rogue mercenaries clashed in a brutal free-for-all. Kaito found himself caught in the crossfire, maneuvering through the chaos to reach the chips before anyone else. Explosions rocked the labyrinthine streets, and the air crackled with gunfire. The underworld was tearing itself apart, a savage struggle where allegiances meant nothing and survival was the only currency. The fight escalated, drawing the attention of even more powerful players, and the city trembled under the weight of the conflict. OmegaCorp, determined to reclaim the chips at any cost, unleashed their most advanced weaponry. High-tech drones swarmed the skies, and heavily armored cyborgs patrolled the streets. Kaito faced a relentless barrage of firepower. The weapons they wielded were unlike anything he'd encountered before, capable of disabling even the most hardened defenses. Kaito had to adapt, improvising tactics and using the environment to his advantage. Explosions lit up the night sky, and the thunderous roar of advanced weaponry echoed through the streets. Each confrontation became a test of Kaito's skill and resolve, pushing him to his limits as he fought to survive. OmegaCorp, resorting to desperate measures, began deploying the Chronos chips against civilians. They turned innocent people into unwitting pawns, their minds twisted to serve OmegaCorp's agenda. Kaito witnessed the horrifying effects of the chips firsthand, watching as friends and allies turned against him. The city descended into paranoia, with no one knowing who could be trusted. He had to find a way to counter the mind control, to break OmegaCorp's grip on the city. The psychological warfare escalated, testing Kaito's mental fortitude as he faced the chilling reality of the chip's power. Kaito, realizing he couldn't fight OmegaCorp with brute force alone, devised a plan, a strategic assault on OmegaCorp's central hub. He gathered his remaining allies, a ragtag team of hackers, rebels, and underworld figures. They mapped out OmegaCorp's security systems, identified vulnerabilities, and prepared for a coordinated attack. Kaito's plan was intricate, a complex dance of infiltration, sabotage, and deception. It was a long shot, but it was their only chance to strike a decisive blow against OmegaCorp. Each member of his team had a crucial role, and the success of the mission hinged on their ability to execute their parts flawlessly. Kaito's team initiated their infiltration, slipping past OmegaCorp's outer defenses. The headquarters, a towering monolith of steel and glass, was a fortress. They navigated through laser grids, bypassed security checkpoints, and disabled surveillance systems. The air was thick with tension. One wrong move could trigger an alarm, alerting the entire facility. They moved silently, relying on shadows and distractions to remain undetected. The infiltration was a delicate operation, requiring precision and discipline. The stakes were high. Success meant disrupting OmegaCorp's operations, while failure meant capture and the end of their resistance. Kaito reached OmegaCorp's inner sanctum, where he came face to face with the corporation's enigmatic leader, Chairman Thorne. Thorne, a cold and calculating figure, revealed his vision, a world where humanity was perfected through technology, even if it meant sacrificing free will. Their confrontation was more than a physical battle, it was a clash of ideologies. Kaito argued for freedom and choice, while Thorne championed control and order. The tension escalated, with Thorne revealing the full scope of his plan, a global network of Chronos chips, capable of controlling billions. Their duel was a high-stakes chess game, with the fate of the city hanging in the balance. As Kaito confronted Thorne, he also had to contend with the residual effects of the Chronos chips. Thorne attempted to use them to turn Kaito against his allies, trying to break his will. Kaito found himself fighting a battle within his own mind, struggling against the chip's influence. He had to rely on his mental fortitude, pushing back against the waves of manipulation. The struggle was intense, a psychological war against the intrusive technology. Visions flashed before his eyes, attempting to distort his perception of reality. Kaito had to stay focused, to resist the allure of control and maintain his grip on his own identity. The battle between Kaito's team and OmegaCorp reached its climax, a chaotic clash that engulfed the city. The streets became a war zone, with high-tech weaponry and cybernetic enhancements clashing in a spectacular display of force. Explosions rocked the city, and the sky was lit up with energy blasts. Kaito's allies fought valiantly, holding their ground against OmegaCorp's overwhelming forces. The battle was a turning point, a final stand against oppression. The fate of Night City rested on the outcome of this epic confrontation, a struggle between freedom and tyranny. Every shot fired echoed through the city, as its citizens held their collective breath. Kaito, realizing the true danger of the Chronos chips, made a decision: they had to be destroyed. He initiated a self-destruct sequence, overloading the chip's core and sending a surge of energy through OmegaCorp's network. The destruction caused widespread disruption, crippling OmegaCorp's control systems. The city was thrown into chaos, but the threat of mass mind control was averted. The act served as a stark reminder of the perils of unchecked technological advancement. The aftermath left the city reeling, grappling with the consequences of its reliance on technology. Kaito hoped that this destruction would serve as a lesson, a warning against the dangers of unchecked power. With OmegaCorp's influence shattered, Night City began to rebuild. The future remained uncertain, but the city had a chance to forge its own path. Kaito, now a symbol of resistance, disappeared into the shadows, his work far from over. He knew that the fight for freedom was never truly finished, that new threats would always emerge. His legacy as the Neon Warrior would live on, inspiring others to stand against oppression. The city's inhabitants began to question their reliance on technology, to seek a more balanced existence. Kaito's actions had sparked a revolution, a change in the very fabric of Night City.